Warning, cheaters may contain adult themes and strong language. Parents are cautioned that this program may not be suitable for children. Coming up on this episode of Cheaters.
I found some panties. Whenever that you take a bath and you see that hearts, you know, when the steam or the shower, hearts are on the mirror. And later,
it just seems like they're always together. I'm kind of like the three's a crowd kind of thing.
From Cheaters surveillance cameras, you are about to view actual true stories filmed live, documenting the pain of a spouse or lover caused by infidelity. This program is both dedicated to the faithful and presented to the false-hearted to encourage their renewal of temperance and virtue.
It's just like he's just trying to keep a big secret from me.
I just can't take the lies.
I can't go on anymore. I need to know the truth.
I don't like being the one that has to show you this.
Yeah, we got it right now. They're heading south.
I'm tired of the excuses.
This is something that I've got to know.
They're together right now. There they are. Let's go.
What's up, homie? Who are you, homie?
Did you do this to me? Stop! Ow! Stop! Mitch, stop!
You better get right with God.
I love you.
Real reality television is brought to you by Cheaters Detective Agency's Private Eyes on Cheaters.
Greetings, I'm Joey Greco. Thank you for watching this special episode of Cheaters. Allow me to introduce Rose Tackett, a loving grandmother who suspects that her 40-year marriage may be in jeopardy. Fed up with the constant speculation, Rose entrusts the professionals at Cheaters for assistance.
Rose Tackett, age 60, fears frosted hearts on her bathroom mirror point to a steamy extramarital affair.
You've been married how many years?
40 years. And I know he was having an affair off and on with my next door neighbor, who at the time was my friend, until I got suspicion, and then she and I weren't friends anymore, and then they moved away. But I suspect that they're back together again. Whenever that you take a bath and you see that hearts, you know, when the steam or the shower, hearts are on the mirror. My grandkids haven't been over, you know. I take a shower like every night, so they weren't over. And I don't go in there and draw hearts on the mirror. And of course you have to have the steam to make the hearts come up, but so what? I found some panties.
Oh my gosh. Now where were those?
They were under the sofa cushion. And I found different washcloths in my bathroom that have been used. He doesn't go in my bathroom and use washcloths and towels. He has his own bathroom. He doesn't do that in my bathroom. Oh, I would tell him if he didn't stop, and then he would tell me he wasn't seeing anybody. I'd tell him I was just going to leave, you know. And he's like, yeah, all right, you're going to leave. We can't either one make it without staying together. Well, if this doesn't stop, well, I'm out of here, you know. If it doesn't stop, I'm out here.
If you suspect infidelity in your relationship, Cheaters licensed investigators may be able to provide you assistance. Exercise your right to be informed. Identity of suspect withheld. Age late 50s. Suspected of sneaking around with another woman while his wife is outside their home. Investigation Day 1. For most of the first day, Cheaters' cameras find the suspect lounging around the house. Initially, nothing unusual occurs. The suspect spends several hours relaxing in his chair. During this phase of the investigation, Cheaters' surveillance does not detect anyone coming or going from the home. Investigation Day 5. Cheaters' snoops follow the suspect out of the home as he then heads off on another errand. And again, the suspect does nothing culpatory, only heading into a local grocery store. Investigation Days 6 through 20. Although Cheaters' cameras continue to follow the suspect is not observed to be doing anything other than his usual lounging and daily errands. Cheaters detectives contact Rose Tackett to notify her of the findings. Concluding that there is insufficient evidence to warrant further surveillance, Tackett's case is temporarily put on hold. Coming up, the conclusion.
Having found no instance of infidelity, Cheaters temporarily closes the Tackett case. However, new information about the evidence to which Rose so struggled has recently surfaced. Wishing to remain anonymous, Rose Tackett's grandson comes forward to shed light on this elusive case.
What I found out about my grandma being on Cheaters is when I was up late watching the show with a couple of my buddies drinking some beer, and I was totally shocked and embarrassed about what I saw, and felt bad because I realized at that point when she talked about the panties and the hearts in the bathroom that was me and an ex-girlfriend. So, I just had to come in here and clear the air. Well, it took me a little while to get up the courage to confront my grandma and kind of fill in all the information that I've been hiding from her. And I went over there a couple years later, about a year and a half later, and told her that it was my girlfriend's panties, and we were fooling around in the house and stuff like that. And she got upset with me for not telling her sooner, and even though she kind of hid it, but why didn't you tell me, and you were coming at least, and started crying. But she ultimately, a few minutes after those first emotions kind of came to the surface, she was kind of relieved that it wasn't Grandpa fooling around on her. It was, it was me fooling around with my girlfriend. Well, Grandma prompted me to come to Cheaters because she wanted me to clear the air. She was kind of embarrassed of her actions, and she just wanted me to come and tell the true story about what happened and clear the air. And I felt I should do that too as well, because I just wanted everyone to know it was me and not my grandpa messing around. My grandparents and I, we had a pretty good relationship even before I told them what had happened. And now that I've stepped up to the plate and told them exactly what has happened and what I did, and I think they see me in a different light. I think they see me more as an adult and more responsible and more mature. So I really feel it is taking our relationship to another level. And I feel closer to them, and I feel like I can come to them more and talk to them about anything and everything. And it's really good. I'm really happy I stepped up the plate and did what I did.
As a result of the young man's hijinks, Rose spent many years embittered with her faithful husband. At the end of the show, Cheaters discloses Rose's reaction to the recent findings. But first, meet Greg Gaw, a man who suspects that mischief resides in his young fiance's heart. Refusing to allow anything to come between him and his bride-to-be, Greg approaches Cheaters for an investigation.
Greg Gaw, age 35, a printer who wants to be sure about his fiance's character before spending money on a marriage certificate.
She's talked about wanting children, and she's ready, she feels, and I'm ready.
How'd she react when you proposed to her?
Very excited, of course. Yeah, she seems to be excited whenever we talk about it, and I know I am.
You have a new roommate, and it's her best friend.
Right.
Is that when the problem started?
Yeah. Yes, sir. Again, I like her roommate. Her roommate's a very nice friend of ours, and they're best friends, and it just seems like they're always together. I'm kind of like the, three's a crowd kind of thing. And I respect, that they're such good friends and all, and they're both women, and they want to do things together. It just seems like it's all the time. And again, I'm always working, work a lot of overtime, and it just seems like that something sneaky might be going on. I don't know, and it might even be me. It might just be my head playing tricks on me.
If you suspect infidelity in your relationship, Cheater's licensed investigators may be able to provide you assistance. Exercise your right to be informed. Identity withheld, age 25. A student suspected of carousing around with her best friend and roommate. Investigation Day 2. Cheater's mobile units establish a perimeter outside the home that Greg shares with both his fiancée and his roommate. Early in the afternoon, Greg's fiancée, whose identity is withheld, makes her way across the busy street with the roommate. The two drive across town to an upscale shopping mall where the courteous roommate, whose identity is also withheld, holds the door open for an elderly patron. While in the mall, the inseparable pair chatted up while browsing the many specialty stores. Window shopping through the mall shows that our suspect is a sucker for accessories, such as shoes and purses. But nothing in this day of the investigation is cause for alarm. Having shared a double espresso and some conversation, the roommates leave the mall on a caffeine high. Investigation Day 5. After Greg leaves for work, his fiancée jumps into action, only this time without the roommate in tow. Cautiously following behind, Cheater's investigators discover that the suspect makes quick work of her errands at the dry cleaners and gas station so that she can enjoy an iced tea and a quiet book at her favorite bookstore around the corner. Several hours later, our young suspect does not seem very suspicious as she returns home with an enthralling novel. Investigation Day 6. Cheater's agents believe that Greg might be dealing with some issues of insecurity regarding his bride-to-be. Thursdays at 4 p.m., our suspect regularly volunteers at the local area's children's hospital, and this day is no exception. Having spent 2.5 hours with sick children, Greg's fiancée emerges fulfilled and returns home. Greg's fiancée remains loyal to her man, and Greg can feel secure in marrying this lovely, selfless young lady. Coming up, the conclusion.
With all leads exhausted, Cheaters announces that Greg's insecurities dwell only in his head. Since this episode aired, new information surfaced to further explain the mysterious disappearance of Greg's fiancée.
Greg and I met at a bar. I had never been there before, and a mutual friend actually introduced me to him. I really liked him because he was really well put together. He had a good job, a good car, you know, a nice place. He seemed to have everything going for him, and that was more than I could say for a lot of guys that I had dated. I had problems with Greg almost immediately after I moved in. He didn't treat me badly or anything, but he was always very possessive. Even when we were dating, but it just pretty much doubled whenever I moved in. He was always asking where I was. He made me buy a cell phone. I never thought he would go as far as calling an investigator to follow me, but he was always very paranoid about where I was and my male friends and my coworkers and things like that. Greg is very careful about all of his paperwork, all of his transactions and everything he does. He keeps records of everything. And we have 2 big filing cabinets full of paperwork and things like that. And I was actually looking for a tax statement from last year, and I found an email that he had printed out from a detective from this company. And that's when I realized what was going on. When I found the paperwork, I was pissed. I could not believe I just couldn't believe it. Who does that? You know, what kind of maniac actually has someone follow their girlfriend? And I mean, it was just insane. I didn't know what to do. And I talked to, and she was just as upset as me. And we thought about, you know, really playing it up and giving them a run for their money, but we just decided to leave. Most people attract certain types of mates. And I've always been lucky enough to get the mama's boys, you know, need a bottle, help me please, I can't do anything on my own kind of guys, and Greg was definitely no exception. Insecure, very sociable, lots of friends, throws around his money, very needy, you know, very possessive. He was all those things, and I should have known from the beginning not to get involved with him, but he was just, there was something about him that was different, or so I thought, but he just turned out to be like everyone else. I don't blame cheaters for what happened. I blame Greg. It was his own paranoia that spawned this entire situation. I love the show. We used to watch it when we were together, and I still watch it every once in a while. It could help some people, I think, if they're really having problems in their relationships and they genuinely want help, but sometimes people just aren't cheating. And, you know, it's too bad when you have to hire an investigator to find out, but I guess sometimes you just need to know.
Greg learns that the more he tightens his grip, the faster his fiancée slips through his fingers. At the conclusion of this special presentation, Cheaters details how Greg manages the loss of his fiancée. But now Cheaters presents Radam Benson. Radam returns to dispel what he feels are unfair accusations leveled by Cheaters.
Radam Benson, age 26. Radam discusses how his relationship with Mary Brickett was affected by the experience on Cheaters.
Whenever I was coming out of the restaurant and I seen the crew cameras and all these lights coming after us, and I didn't know what was going on until I saw Mary's boyfriend, and I knew it was on then. I knew we were going to throw down.
Who is this? Who is this? Who is this? Who are you? What is going on? You want some? Get off me. Who's on my nizzle? Mary, what's been going on here?
Who are you?
Don't worry about who we are.
I'm gonna worry
We're
about
cheaters.
you.
After you're with a girl for about a year, it's done. You ain't getting no more nookie, and you're off doing just what I was doing, so you might as well save yourself a divorce and just stay single.
But in the parking lot, you said you were just shagging.
What's going on?
Well, if I cared about somebody, I don't know if I'd say that about them, you know? I mean, if you're going to be for real, if you're going for real, if it's your girl, you're not going to say, hey, we're just shagging.
Nothing's for real.
But it's just shagging.
You know, right now I'm having a good time. The women all want me. All the men want to be me. I'm having a good time, and I'm just going to keep on doing this. And I do think about the future. Hopefully the right woman will be out there one day, and I'll marry her and have me a girlfriend on the side.
Rose Tackett tells herself that her insecurities fuel her suspicions, but feels that the evidence cannot be ignored. Now that her grandson has come forward, Rose hopes to rebuild her estranged relationship with her husband of over 40 years. Rose and her husband have since forgiven their grandson and admit that after so many years of marriage, a new hurdle to overcome is a welcome challenge. Greg Gaw admits that all through his life, his relationships have been affected by his inability to trust. However, he was convinced that his fiancée was too good to be true. As for Mr. Gaw's former fiancée, she feels that her privacy was invaded in such a lascivious way that she'll no longer speak to Greg under any circumstances. She does admit that she may have agreed to marry Greg a little too hastily, but she believes she would have learned to be happy with him if he just weren't so possessive.
All done, sir.
Thank you, Sonny.
Thank you, Mr. G.